And I thought, wow, these people they know how to serve. And you know what? They got paid the same how they treated me or not. And I thought, wow, they have and of course one of the ladies there, she went to church. I talked to her. But I'm telling you, it shows in people's lives. When we understand the concept, we change our attitude. Let this mind be in you. Have the mind of a servant. Looking for things that you can do to serve the Lord and then do it. Secondly, not only change your attitude towards servant, but consider who our master is. Now I realize there were times when slaves were mistreated way back. I want you to think about who our master is. Jesus Christ. And just what He's done for you and me. When you think about how He came, the life He lived, the humiliation and the shame, the Bible says He was at all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. And that why in the world would you be born and go through that humiliation? Does anybody like to be humiliated? No. Why would we want to go through that? But yet He went through that for us, and our Master. Consider who He is. Consider what He's done. We have the greatest, most glorious Master in all the world. Our Master feeds us, He clothes us, He shields us, He loves us, He chastens us, He cares for us. And you can ask Him anything. What a Master. He purchased us. He pardoned us. He gives us peace. He gives us forgiveness. He gives us love and compassion. Listen, it is an honor to serve the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Sure is. Thirdly, we need to commit to the lifestyle of a servant. It says, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but made Himself of no reputation, took upon Him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, He humbled Himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. This is where servanthood leaves most of us behind. You see, people say, well, that's preacher, that's good in theory. That'll preach, okay? But here's where the rubber meets the road. No pun intended, brother. And Brother David had a tire, I think we should use it today. But listen, a servant looks for opportunities to serve. Commit to the lifestyle of a servant. A servant sees the needs of others. I mean, they see the need because they're looking for the need in others. You know, as Jesus went about, he's walking through and He realizes, hey, somebody has a need. And He stops. We were looking at yesterday at the funeral, in John chapter 11, where Jesus went to Mary and Martha. Lazarus has died. He knew there were a need. He could have skipped on by there and went on, but He didn't. He went by there to minister to this family. He saw the need. Listen, it's seeing the needs of others. Secondly, a servant prays for the concerns of others. Prays for the concerns of others. You know somebody who has needs, and maybe you're not equipped to meet those needs, but pray to God. Because God can help you. A servant is not afraid to pray. A servant is not afraid to get on his knees with somebody and pray with him. He says, let me pray for you. I know you're struggling. I know you're going through a hard time. I know your family's going through a hard time. I know you're going through this and you're going through that, and this has happened in your life. And I want to just pray with you. Because a servant cares. Thirdly, a servant empties himself of pride. You see, pride cannot stay in our life, because if we're proud, we're not going to do any of the things a servant does. Jesus emptied himself, took upon himself the form of a servant, and took no reputation. He didn't have, he didn't go around taking selfies of himself, and all the things that he did, he didn't do that. He was not filled with pride, but he was filled with humility. It says he humbled himself. The King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Next, a servant volunteers for work that he thinks needs to be done without asking. I'm thankful that our church has wonderful servants out there. You go and you cut grass, you do different things, you take food, you encourage people. That's what servants do. Takes care of the needs of others. Volunteers. A servant follows the commands of God with a positive attitude. They know God's Word says this, and they follow those things, and they do those things willingly. Not like the little girl that her dad told her to sit down. And she wouldn't sit down, he said, sit down. So he finally spanked her and said, sit down. And she said, I may be sitting down, but I'm standing up inside. That's what a lot of people are. I'll do it, but I'm not happy doing it. Listen, we need to be willing to follow his command. A servant gives of his time and talent and treasures to the master. Listen, he owns it all anyway. God owns everything. I heard this. You know what I heard on the news this morning? Millennials are going to be the richest. Did y'all hear that? The richest people in America. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that this morning? You heard it? Okay, I'm not crazy. Well, me and Miss Claire are crazy. But we heard it this morning. You know why? Because they're going to get all the wealth given down to them. And you know what a guy said with the Ramsey Foundation, he said, it's scary. What they're going to do with the money. What is it? Well, listen, you know what? We don't have to. A servant gives of his time and his talent and his treasures to the Lord. A servant commits himself to the cause of Christ. Hey, I'm sold out. I'm going to serve the Lord. And we say, well, I'm going to serve if this doesn't happen, if these people don't come to my house, if this don't happen, then I'll be at church. Commits himself to the cause of Christ. This is where people quit listening. You might have quit a long time ago. Listen, this was true in Jesus' day and today. Being a servant's not easy. Listen, if it was easy, everybody would do it. It goes against, as I said, our natural desires. And if we're going to be in the image of Christ, listen, we must learn to be servants. We must learn to take the opportunity to be a servant. Take your time. You say, well, I'm not really a good servant. Then pray to God to help you to be a servant. We must commit to become the kind of servant that Christ was. A servant doesn't gripe or complain. A servant rejoices in things. Our world would have you to believe that we roll out of Halloween into Christmas, but there's a forgotten day in there, Thanksgiving. Well, we brush over that because we don't get any sales out of that. But listen, we need to be thankful as servants. Thankful that the Lord lets me serve. Listen, where do you see your level of servanthood tonight? Do you feel satisfied with the way you're serving? Do you feel, well, I'm above being a servant? A servant is never satisfied. Never satisfied. I can always do better. I can always do more. Listen, if God is looking for servants, he looked to you, what he looked to me with my life. So being a servant is not. It's not having to know a bunch of things. Because goodness knows we could. I couldn't do it. That's just making yourself available to the Master. Paul, when he got, when Paul, the Apostle Paul, when he got saved, he was riding his high horse and he got knocked off the horse and blinded, literally blinded. And the Lord brought him down. You know what he said? Lord, what will you have me to do? That's a servant. See, he was doing what he wanted to do, but then his want to got changed. So tonight, listen, you may be here tonight and you're lost, and I'm telling you, the lost man, we don't think about serving God. We don't think about what God wants. But you can't be a good servant until you know Him as your Savior. Tonight, we're going to have a verse of invitation and give you that opportunity tonight. And maybe you've never made the opportunity, taken the opportunity to be saved tonight. You can be saved. Because Jesus came and took the form of a servant and died upon a cross, and you and I can be saved. And those disciples that followed Him, everything that He did was to show them how to be a servant. And everything that we read in His Word, we find Jesus Christ serving.